Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby if you don't already know me, and I love to talk all things personal finance, organization, and lifestyle. Today's video is an exciting one. I wanted to do an updated payday routine video. I did one earlier on my channel, but I wanted to go into a little bit more detail and get into the nitty-gritty. So I will be walking through every single thing I do with my money on payday, including where my money goes, how much is going into each account, and then also what I invest in. Money routines have really revolutionized the way that I see and deal with my money. Instead of avoiding or obsessing over money like I've done in the past, my money routines help me keep my financial anxiety at bay and keep me motivated towards my financial goals. A few of you have asked me how I invest and what I invest in, so I will be covering that today, but I do just want to give a little disclaimer. I am obviously not a financial advisor, so please take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is not financial advice. This is strictly just what I personally invest in, and it's not what I would recommend for other people to do. I have completely different goals from you. I have a completely different risk tolerance from you. Don't just invest in these things because you see me investing in them. So let's get into the video. Apologies for the lighting today. It is 6 p.m. It's just really dark out because it's been raining all day. So we're getting into that season where the daylight is going to be escaping me. So some of my videos are going to be very moody, very fall, very demure. Before I start jumping into my payday routine, I wanted to give you guys a background on me just in case this is your first video of mine that you're coming across. I am 29 years old. I live in Vancouver, Canada, and I live with my boyfriend in this one-bedroom apartment. We share the rent of this apartment, so it is $2,200 a month. We've been here for about 3 years, and we split that right down the middle, so my portion is $1,100. We have to pay for hydro and internet, but other than that, we have no other fixed expenses dealing with our home. I obviously do not own a home or anything like that. I don't have to pay property tax. I also own my car outright, so I don't currently have car debt, and I don't have any other sort of debt. I don't have consumer debt. I don't have student debt. My money is primarily going towards my day-to-day expenses and then savings and investments as well. I have a 9-to-5 job, and my current salary at that job is $92,000 a year. So I will be breaking down my payday routine based off of that paycheck because it is the majority of my pay. I do also have side hustles with YouTube and Etsy. The YouTube pays come in once a month on the 20th to the 26th, and then Etsy and Gumroad, which are the platforms I sell digital products on, will pay me once a week. I basically have money coming in from all sorts of places. For this video, primarily, I will be walking you through what happens every 2 weeks when I get paid from my 9-to-5. I'm paid bi-weekly and I'm paid on Fridays. So how this breaks down for me is I usually have 2 paychecks every single month, and then for around 2 months of the year, I have a 3-paycheck month. I basically budget my life off of my 2 paychecks a month, and then when I have that 3rd paycheck, it's just like a bonus. I am also a credit card user, so I spend all of my day-to-day expenses on credit, and I'm always paying my bills from the previous month. So I wait for my statement balance, and then I pay my entire statement balance off in the period between my statement balance and my due date, and then I continue to spend on that card with my day-to-day expenses. So I'm always looking back. So for example, this month I have to worry about how much money I actually spent in August. Let's cover my primary financial goals because I think that will be important when it comes to why I'm doing what I'm doing. So currently my main goals are to invest for the future. I am very dead set on getting as much compound growth, especially because I'm still in my 20s. This is the last month of my 20s. I am trying to maximize how much money I'm currently investing so that I have more money later on and I don't have to contribute so heavily in my 30s and 40s. I also do like to save for sinking funds. So if you watch my regular budgeting videos, I have sinking funds for things like travel and regular day-to-day life things that I like to enjoy and I don't like to feel guilty about spending money on. And I also have a fully funded emergency fund as well. This year's financial goal was to more so focus on the investing portion and not so much on the saving. However, I have had larger expenses this year that I wasn't fully anticipating. So I have actually been saving a lot more than I was hoping to do, but that's totally okay. I'm happy to save as well as invest as long as I'm hitting my investing minimums. So hopefully that bit of background on me can help you guys contextualize the rest of this video and kind of makes it clear exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. All right, so So the way I wanted to do this was to look at my payday routines in the context of a whole month, just because I have a very different routine depending on if it's the first pay of the month or the second pay of the month. Why don't we pretend that we are going to go through both pay cycles of this month, which is September, and then I will kind of walk you through exactly what I do with my money for each pay cycle. This budget tracker is the one I sell on Etsy. I will leave the link for this in the description box down below. I have a special discount code for my YouTube family. It's 50% off. This is the only location you get that special code. My paychecks are around $2,500. The exact number is $2,569. As we get closer to the end of the year, I have slowly started to max out my CPP, or like my pension. So I'm actually starting to see a little bit more money on each paycheck. So the first pay of this month was $2,582.39. So let's just say this is the very first paycheck of the month. Let me go to my calendar spread just to make this a bit more clear. The visuals are quite helpful. So here is the month of September. You can see the very first payday of September is on September 6th. I generally have 3 main credit cards that I spend on. You will see these here: my RBC Avion, my Neo MasterCard, and then my Amex Gold. And these are my 3 main credit cards that I spend my money on, and they're all luckily due within a very similar time frame, which is around the middle of the month. And I like to pay my credit cards off typically after I pay my rent, but very close to the beginning of the month, just so that I have lots of time just in case if something doesn't work out. So I like to pay my credit cards usually in this very first week of the month. Let's just pretend I haven't paid my credit cards off and I just got paid. So the very first thing that happens after I get paid is I have automatic savings and automatic investments that come out of my checking account. So I get paid into my checking account, then immediately on that same day, Wealthsimple will pull money from that checking account and it will put it into different accounts. So let's do the investments first. So this is my paycheck that just hit my checking account. This is $2,582, just hit my checking account. And then the very next thing that happens is my automatic investments. And this is called paying yourself first. Because I have these automatic transfers that come out of my account, it really makes me feel like I have less money to live off of. It makes me feel like I make less money than I actually do. That money doesn't even exist. It's not spendable money. I don't actually have my full salary to spend because these automatic transfers just come off immediately. And my current role that I am in, I do not have any sort of retirement match, any sort of investment match. No money is taken off of my pay and put into any sort of investment account. So it's really critical that I do this for myself because no one is covering my back. No one is ensuring that I'm investing. So I like to make sure that this is the very, very first thing that happens. And I almost treat it as though my employer did it for me. It is like a non-negotiable. I have never turned these off. It happens every single time I get paid. So you can see here the amounts that go into each of these accounts is $650 into my retirement account, $125 into my tax-free savings account, and $150 into my first home savings account. So I am obviously Canadian. If you are unfamiliar with these terms, the TFSA, the tax-free savings account, it's basically the exact same account as the US 401k, and then the RRSP is my retirement account, and that is the Canadian equivalent of the Roth IRA. The first-time home savings account, I don't know if there's an exact similar account that I could compare it to, but it's basically a double whammy tax advantage account. You are not taxed on your gains, and then it's also tax deferred, so it lowers my taxable income for this year. Wow, we're really losing the daylight. I might have to move into another room. Oh, actually, let's put the lamp on. That helps. Okay, I really do apologize for the lighting. The sun be setting, okay? Let's talk through exactly how I came up with these values. First thing I do at the beginning of every calendar year is I set a goal for what I want to do investing-wise. Because my primary goal is investing, I like to do a percentage of my take-home pay so that I'm always making sure that I'm combating lifestyle inflation. You know, I'm not fully combating lifestyle inflation. If I get a raise, I'm allowed to spend more money on myself, but I want to make sure that those amounts that I'm investing also go up with that raise. And that just helps to make sure that I'm not just spending out of control and I'm keeping within my goals. My current goal is to invest 30% of my take-home pay. Experts typically recommend a range of 10 to 25% of your take-home pay should be invested. And I like to go a little bit further than that just because I am trying to capitalize on the fact that I am still pretty young and my dollars right now have a lot more power than later. So if I invest more now, I don't actually have to invest quite as much later on, especially once I have a family and, you know, life gets a little bit more complicated educated in my 30s. I'm trying to capitalize on the fact that I'm young and I actually don't have a lot of fixed costs right now. 30% of my take-home pay, so let's do $25.69 is my typical pay, and 30% of that is, so $25.69 times 30%, that gets me $770. So that is the number that I should try to aim for every single paycheck. So because I'm investing into tax advantage accounts, there actually are maximums for every single year. So for the TFSA, if I'm not mistaken, it was $7,500 this year, or 65? 7,000. So for the TFSA, it was $7,000 is the max contribution room for the year. For the FHSA, it is $8,000 every single year until it's maxed out at $40,000. And then the RRSP is more so based on your income and also if you have any additional room from previous years. I have never maxed out my retirement account. I don't think I'm close to maxing it out, but I do have to keep an eye on that because I have been going pretty hard in my retirement account. So I do have to check in on that. Basically, what I like to do is because I have an inheritance from when my grandma passed away, I like to move that money that is currently sitting in a fully taxed account into my TFSA and into my FHSA whenever that contribution room opens up, just because I want to obviously not pay tax on that money. That money is going to be taxed otherwise, so it makes no sense for me to, not take advantage of the contribution room. So what I like to do is do a lump sum deposit into my TFSA and my FHSA, and I will at the beginning of the year just do a lump sum deposit, and I don't like to do too much at once because let's just say that is the highest day of the market for the entire year. I would have invested in the highest point of the year. I'm not too fussed on this, but I generally believe in just consistent investing versus like big lump sum investing. So I think what I did at the beginning of the year is I transferred about $3,000 into each account, and then whatever that remainder was, I divided that by how many paychecks I have in the year, which is 26 paychecks in the year. So that's usually how I find out how much I want to contribute to those accounts, but I do want to make sure I'm fully maxing them out for the entire year, and then whatever's left over will be how much I contribute to my retirement. So I would take the 770, I would subtract off the 150 for my FHSA, I subtract off the 125 for my TFSA, and then that remainder is how much I should contribute to my retirement. And that's what I started doing at the beginning of the year. Until I started making more money from my side hustles, I realized I should probably try to increase the amount that I was putting into my retirement or investing in general because I was making more money. And so I have now landed on this $650 into my retirement account. So total per paycheck, I'm actually contributing quite a bit more than that 770. I find once I increase that number, it does feel a little bit weird at first, but then I get used to it. It's like my brain adapts to that number being taken out. And I like to just slowly inch that number up over time. And then my brain doesn't really notice it. The next thing that happens after I get paid is I have my automatic savings get taken out of my account. So similarly to my investments, I have automatic savings that pull from my account and deposit into a high yield savings account. This account is currently getting 4.5%. I misspoke in a previous video. I thought it was getting 5%, but it's currently 4.5%. And it's actually about to drop to 4.25 because the Fed just dropped the interest rates in Canada. But while cash is still king, I don't actually mind having a larger sinking fund / emergency fund account. And what I do is I just put all of my savings into one high yield savings account. So I'm getting that 4.5% on all of my money that is sitting because I want to maximize my returns. I just don't want money sitting around not making me any money. What I like to do at the beginning of the year is sit down and really think about what are my savings goals for the year? What do I want to work towards? These things can be short-term goals and they can also be long-term goals. So some of my short-term goals are things like travel, my beauty savings account, which I pull from pretty often. I also have a cat fund where sometimes if the cats have to go to the vet, I will be regularly drawing down from that fund. I also have long-term savings accounts for weddings. Weddings are super expensive, so I save up for going to other people's weddings. And then if I have extra money, I can use that towards my future wedding. I also save up for my car. My car repairs and any sort of mechanic work is very, very expensive. So I save up for that. And then I also save in that same account for my car insurance that is due once every single year. Actually, let's take a look at my savings account so that you can visualize this. You can see here, automatically after my investments are pulled, my savings are pulled, I contribute to my holiday account, which is my Christmas fund. That is a big one. Christmas is so expensive and I'm actually feeling a little behind on this one. So we are gonna start jacking that up. I have my Orlando save, which is my cat. I actually have another cat, so this should be called the cat's saving account, but we're not changing the name. name, whatever, it's for the 2 cats. I have a car sinking fund, I have a beauty save account, and then I have my Italy account, which is my travel account, as I mentioned. What I do, because all of my money is going into the same account, I don't have to toy around with how much money is going into like little vaults. Like I know people like to do vaults for their sinking funds, or like buckets, if you will. Like some banks will let you separate these accounts so you know exactly how much money is in each. What I find is just way simpler is I will put all of that money into the same account, and I will just alter the amount in my budget tracker, and then I can track exactly how much is in all of my accounts using the savings tab. So you can see here the balance in all of my accounts is right here. There are some accounts that I just didn't contribute to in this paycheck. I also have a laptop fund that I already saved for that laptop. That is done, but that was a goal for this year. I have a wedding account, which I'm no longer contributing to because I have a wedding coming up in a couple of weeks and I have a bunch of money in that account. So I'm totally fine with the amount that's there. I'm not too worried about it at this point. This is my emergency portion of the account. So if I draw down from my emergency fund, I can always top it back up with this portion. And then obviously business taxes. As somebody who is now making self-employment income, I have to save for taxes. So 30% of what I make from my side hustles is saved into this account. And what I do is I wait for my YouTube paycheck. My YouTube paycheck is usually more than that 30%. I put that YouTube paycheck into a different account, and I will actually cover this in the second payday of the month. So how do I decide how much money is going to be going into these accounts? Hi Orlando, hi sweetie. So usually what I do is I take off that investment account. It was so uncoordinated. So what I usually do is I look at how much I contribute to my investing account. So for example, for one paycheck of the month so far, I have contributed $925. Typically at the beginning of the year, we'll figure out how much I want to contribute to savings. And what I usually do is use a number that is a general number that I spend for the day-to-day expenses, because I don't want to over contribute to these accounts and then constantly be overspending and constantly pulling from my savings accounts. So let's just say my typical amount that I'm investing is $925, and I know on average I average about, let's just say $2,000 on expenses, about $1,300 on bills. Let's just say that those are general numbers. So I would say, okay, so my general day-to-day life costs me $2,000 plus the $1,300, so $3,300 plus the $925, $1,300, and we're gonna add $2,000 that's on expenses, so that's $3,300, and then we're gonna add the $925, which is my investment contribution, which is $4,225 plus $925 again, because that is 2 times a month that happens. So reminder, there's 2 paychecks a month. So we're at $5,150, and my average pay for the month is around that. For this month, for example, I am estimating about $7,000. Some months it's obviously gonna be a lot less than that. Let's just assume it's gonna be $69.88. $69.88. There should be about $1,838 left over from that. When I did this practice at the beginning of the year, I figured out that what I had left over from my day-to-day pay, just negating all the side hustle income, was around $230. And what I like to do is just set a number and then see if I like it, see if it's working for me. And if I have to alter it, then that's totally fine. I decided on $230 every single paycheck gets deducted off of savings. See how much money is just taken off the second I get paid is $925 plus $230. So about $1,155 comes off of my paycheck every single time I get paid. Wow, that's a lot actually. I never really thought about that. That's actually like, it's almost 50% of my paycheck. That is all done. We have our automatic payments. We have paid ourselves first, which is incredible. Now let's go back to the calendar spread and we'll have a look at the situation with the credit cards. Let's have a look at what like is expected to be in my account just for like visualization. So $1,155 got deducted off of my $2,589, I think it was. So after all of that happens off of my account, I should have $1,434 left over. And let's just pretend my checking account was at 0 beforehand. I usually like to have a rollover amount, but let's just completely forget about that for right now. I have my credit card bills due on the 12th, the 13th, and the 17th. I would like to pay these off right away. And usually what I like to do is be on a pay cycle where I don't have to wait for this specific paycheck to pay off my cards. Sometimes it totally happens where I overspend on my cards and then I have to do that. But the cycle I like to be in is where I have the money at the end of the previous month to pay off my cards and I don't have to worry about this paycheck, but let's just assume I have to pay it. So I will look at my statement balances for these 3 credit cards and then I will transfer over exactly how much money I need to pay those off. If I have not enough money in my account, let's just say my credit card bills total to like $1,600 and I obviously don't have that right now in my checking account, then what I will do is take money out of my sinking funds or my emergency fund to make sure I can pay off my credit cards. Obviously this is not ideal, but because I have such a high setting spending on my savings and my investments. You can see I'm quite aggressive with the amount that I save and I invest. This does happen quite often where I have to pull money out of my savings. Of course, I'm not actually saving as much as I think I am in this scenario, but I almost prefer to shoot a little bit higher, and then if I need to, I can totally pull up money from those accounts. I have like immediate transfers between these accounts. It's as simple as like a quick send, receive, log into my account, and it's done within seconds. It's instant. I don't have any waiting times, so I'm not worried about that money not being there and then my credit cards being overdue. So this completely works for me with the way that my banking is set up. But for example, if you have long wait times between transferring between your savings and your checking, then what I would recommend is having a amount of money that is sitting in your checking as like a flow amount, or I think people call this, what do they call it? A cushion, like a money cushion. Basically you would have, let's just say like $3,000, for example, that would sit in that account, and it's going to flow up and down a little bit as you make more money or save more money. Then you're never in a situation where you don't have enough money for your credit cards. I mentally will spend that money. If I see money in my checking account and feel wealthy, I will go shopping. So I just try to almost feel mentally poor by having like $300 left in my checking account at the end of every single month. This is completely normal for me, and it works for me because I have that instantaneous access to both of my accounts. But as mentioned, if you do not have that, then I do not recommend that. Let's just say I fully pay off my credit cards now. I look at everything that is due. I currently don't have any bills that draw down from my checking account, so I don't have to worry that there needs to be a specific number for that. All of my bills are paid on a credit card. I don't have to double check when bills are coming up or anything like that. I don't have to have a certain amount of money for X bill. Mobile plan is on my credit card, Canva on my credit card. So that is basically the first pay cycle of the month. The main thing I'm worried about is paying off my credit cards and that all of my automatic transfers are done and good to go. I get paid every single Tuesday and Thursday from Etsy and Gumroad. So as soon as the 11th comes, I will have more money in my account, however much money came from my side hustle. And then the 13th, I also will have more money in that account. So I do have like a continuous inflow of money. So I usually don't get too worried that I have maybe only $100 in my account because, you know, a week later I might have 300 or something like that. The second pay cycle of the month is on the 20th, and this is my rent paycheck. So what I like to do is focus one full paycheck towards my rent. Obviously I have money left over after that rent is paid, and then that first paycheck of the month is dedicated to my credit card bills. And this is just simply the way that my credit card bills are due. If they were all due at the same time as my rent, I would probably just let all of that money sit in my account until I have both paychecks, and then I would do one big day of transfers to all of my accounts. I recently got a couple's credit card, which is due on the 4th of the month. Coming soon here, I will have a credit card that is due immediately after my rent is due. So I do have to be a little bit more mindful than I'm currently being, knowing that that second paycheck has to have enough money for both rent and a credit card payment. So let's jump back to my September budget. You can see here, I've currently paid all of my statement balances off for my credit cards at this point of the month. Let's just like come back to reality. I am actually closing 2 credit cards right now. I'm closing my Amex Gold. Well, I'm not closing them down, but I'm downgrading them. So the balance does have to go back down to 0. And I have fully paid off this card. So you can see here, I actually paid off more than I anticipated from the statement balance. And I have also fully paid off my RBC Avion as well. Same thing. There was a little bit extra left over beyond the statement balance that I did pay off at the beginning of this month. My credit card bills are fully paid off. I don't have to worry about anything until that couple's credit card is due. Okay, so my second paycheck of the month is, as I mentioned, a little bit different because I primarily focus on my rent payment. So you can see here my rent payment is $1,100. I also have a bill that is due for my checking account that is $10.95 that also gets pulled from that account. Basically, all I need to make sure I have in that account at the end of the month is $11,10.95. It needs to be in that account. Otherwise, if I go any lower than that, then I have a situation where I can't fully pay my bill. Other than that, I will usually just let that money sit, any extra money that I have beyond that, until the beginning of the next month when I have to worry about my next credit card bills. And now I have that couple's credit card. So because I'm in this like new cycle, I do need to figure out the best ways to make sure I have money ready to go for all those accounts. I am simplifying my credit cards. I will only have one credit card, so that will be due at the middle of the month, and then I will have my couple's credit card on the 4th of the month. So I just need to get in a good scenario of knowing exactly how much money I need to have ready for these accounts. But because everything else is automated, this is really just kind of play play it by ear. It is different every single time. There is no like concrete, hardcore routine to it. And I did try to set up automatic credit card payments. I almost didn't like it because there's this weird feeling where if the automatic transfer for some reason doesn't go through, then it ends up being late. I just personally like sitting down, looking at my statement balance, transferring it over, checking it off my list of things I had to do, and then it's done and I know everything is good. As promised, I will give you a little peek on exactly what I'm investing in and exactly where my money is going in my Wealthsimple account. But before then, I do just want to talk a little bit about money routines and how I stay on top of my money very easily and almost with enjoyment. I enjoy doing this. What I typically will do is regularly input my expenses into my budget tracker. So if you see me scrolling down here, this is how I keep track of everything. Every single dollar that is spent, transferred, invested, every single thing is tracked in my budget tracker. And this might seem pretty tedious for other people, but I just love this system. It just keeps me dead focused on my goals. And I also love being able to fully reflect on exactly what I bought. And I find that linking the emotions of money with like this very concrete numbers, like cannot run away from it stuff, is just very helpful in like understanding how I spend my money and how I deal with my money. What I typically do is on weekdays, I will typically track my spending almost daily. The first thing I do in the morning is just quickly go onto my apps and just log everything that I spent, or right away when I spend it, I will just quickly put it in my tracker. I like to just stay on top of it because I find just doing big dumps of spending is a little bit more challenging. It takes a little bit more time, and I find it's just easier if I stay on top of it. And as I mentioned, I find it fun. And then on the weekends, I will literally just spend freely on the weekends, and then Monday morning, I will do a big dump. That's just like the routine I'm currently set in. Okay, let's have a little look exactly what I'm investing my money into. So I'm currently in my Wealthsimple app, and I will show you exactly how I have all of my automation set up. So you can see here that my cash deposit, which is my $230 that goes into my savings account every single paycheck, this is automatic and it's bi-weekly. And then I also have a regularly scheduled deposit into my FHSA, first time home savings account, and this is a managed account. It's $150, also bi-weekly. Scrolling down. Okay, so let's go through my RRSP and then we'll do the TFSA last. That $650 that is deposited into my retirement account, I have I have four main investment automation set up. Within Wealthsimple, you can set up an automatic investment where you can just set a certain amount of money. You can tell it what you want to invest in. Because Wealthsimple has fractional shares, I don't have to worry about not having enough money to buy one share of something. I can just fractionally buy $50, for example, into whatever stock I want to. So I have four main ETFs that I purchase every single paycheck. So I have FCUV. You will notice that most of these are Fidelity products. I have a family member that works at Fidelity, so they are my financial advisor, and I am a little bit, skewed towards Fidelity products because of that. But please do your own research on your own ETFs. You do not need to buy these ones, but I do recommend ETF, especially general market index funds, because they obviously have low costs and low fees, and they usually have great returns, especially if you're buying something like the XSP, which is like the S&P 500. So the first thing I buy is FCUV. I don't know a ton about this other than it is an ETF and that it is a high performer. So this is like my better performing ETF that I'm investing in, and I invest $185 of my $650. The next thing I buy is FCGS. This is more of a global ETF. It tracks more global markets. I'm not strictly tied into the US market. And then I also buy $95 of Bitcoin. This is the Fidelity linked Bitcoin ETF. This is directly linked with Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin goes up, this goes up. And I buy this in my retirement account because I'm not so worried about the ups and downs of today, tomorrow, a year from now, 2 years from now, etc. I just genuinely believe Bitcoin by the time I retire will be worth more than it currently is today, but I do invest in Bitcoin in my retirement account using the Fidelity product. Next, I have a $185 purchase of XSP. This is the S&P 500 and this is the Canadian version of that. So you will see that I buy more S&P 500 ETFs and I will buy an American one, and I just like exposure to both markets just in case the Canadian dollar doesn't do as well, just in case the US dollar doesn't do as well. I just like to buy a bit of both. Let's move on to the TFSA, and this is where I currently buy, I thought I was buying the SPY in here, but I'm currently not. Okay, I currently buy more FCUV in the TFSA. I'm buying more FCUV than anything else. I heard that this was a great fund to invest in, so that is currently why I am investing in that. But this does change. I have regular meetings with my family member, aka my financial advisor, and we tweak these values here and there as we see fit. But this is currently what I am buying every single paycheck and have been for the last few months. I just wanted to cover one last thing. And so because I have automatic investments and savings taken out of my account, as I did mention many times, I do like to budget on a regular basis. So because I have all of these funds that are taken immediately out of my pay, I do have to be very careful that I'm not overspending, that I'm keeping within my means, that I have enough money in my sinking funds if I am overspending to contribute to that credit card bill. My biggest tip is to budget in some extent. You don't necessarily need to track every single expense. Maybe find an app that will do this for you or that will pull from your accounts automatically. You don't have to do this nitty-gritty work if this is not for you, but you need to know exactly how much money you have to know how much money you need to spend. Otherwise, there is just too much risk of you continuously spending the savings that you are spending a lot of time and energy saving up. And yeah, I don't want that for you. Okay, that was a very scatterbrained, very low lighting quality video, and I hope that it makes sense and that it was clear. If you have any questions, please let me know. I do love talking finances, so yeah, let me know if there's any questions, if anything I didn't cover in the description box below. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.